latest news from around the league. And we start with some news out of Baltimore as NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport confirms Ravens Pro Bowl guard Marshall Yanda will announce his retirement this week after 13 seasons in B-More. A big loss for the Ravens on the offensive line on Monday. The Bills agreeing to terms on a one-year deal with cornerback Josh Norman. Now, could they be looking to bolster their defensive line as well? The Houston Chronicle reporting Buffalo is one of 3 teams reportedly interested in defensive end DJ Reader. The Broncos and Titans, the other teams interested in his services. Reader has started all but 3 games over the past 3 seasons with the Texans. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport also reporting defensive end Leonard Williams and the Giants are not close on a contract extension. Ian adding that the tag is a possibility for Williams, but New York could also let him hit the market. Williams played 8 games for the G-Men last season after being acquired in a trade with the Jets. Now, if NFL teams are looking for a guy that will put the team over individual goals, we'll look no further than USC offensive tackle Austin Jackson. Last year, his sister Autumn was suffering from a rare disorder that prevents a body from producing red blood cells. So Austin stepped up and donated his bone marrow to his sister. He joined NFL Total Access on Monday and talked about this life-changing decision.
Well, the decision was easy. You know, that's my little sister. Yeah. I feel like most people do that, no hesitation family. But it was a really big factor mentally, really to just go through the process and still have to prepare yourself to, you know, compete at your best for your team in the upcoming season. You know, I want to be the bookend left tackle and, you know, lock down that side and keep my quarterback clean. So it was a process to fit all that in one summer.
Absolutely. Such an inspiring story there. Jackson returned to football just a month after the procedure, the first time his doctors had seen a patient make such a quick recovery. And what an amazing gesture from a brother to a sister. And this is what we like about the draft process, because we get a chance to get to know these guys. And Shregs, I know you like to do all the deep dives, and that is just a terrific story. Speaks a lot to that young man's character.
He's an amazing young man, and Kim Jones explained his story really well during the Combine coverage. The other part of it is he's a really, really talented football player and could be your team's left tackle moving forward into the draft.
With a guy like that with that kind of heart, amazing. Thank you, Will, so much. Well, guys, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but Cam Newton is back out on the field throwing the ball. He posted this video on Instagram yesterday as he tries to come back from the foot injury that shut him down after only 2 weeks. That was back in September. Now, last week, we saw that Panthers head coach Matt Rule met with Newton's old trainer, George Whitfield. It seems like the organization is doing everything they can to get Cam back on track. As of now, the Panthers are planning on having Newton as their starter week 1. Does the video that we just saw make you feel any better about Cam's health?
No.
No.
It doesn't. Because it's just a video of him throwing. You guys know I've been a big Cam Newton fan, and I still am. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Once an MVP, always an MVP. What I want to see is him on the football field, not on the practice field.
Yeah.
You know, I was able to talk to Cam Newton and spend some time with him a few weeks ago, and he was talking about all the injuries. He said, when I thought it was my shoulder, it was actually my foot. And then when I focused on my foot, it was something else. And the list went on and on. It was like a game of operation. Yeah. And I feel like right now he's taking his time as he should. What I do love is that the Panthers are doing everything. They're being a little bit more transparent than other teams would with the quarterback of this stature. When Andrew Luck was out, we didn't see him. We didn't hear from him. We didn't know what was going on. I think Cam Newton is turning a page on his career where he wants to show everybody everything. That way we don't jump to conclusions, because the last couple of years, it seems like we were speaking for him and Cam wasn't speaking for himself.
You're saying transparent, and I feel just the same way as far as what the Panthers are telling us. Everyone at home might be thinking, well, what are they thinking? Spoke with Matt Rule at the Combine. He doesn't know. Like, what version of Cam Newton are we getting? We're not making any rash decisions. Let's see the medicals before we make some big decisions.
Matt Rule's honest about that.
I'd love to have Cam Newton. Is it Cam Newton, or is it Cam Newton who can't play and can't be quarterback? It's a fair question. So him throwing in a stylized black and white video in an indoor building, no, it doesn't do anything.
How was the font?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I want to see Cam Newton Newton run. I want to see Cam Newton throw. And, of course, the Panthers want to see that most of all because they've got an investment in this guy. Not only 1 year, $20 million left on his contract, but the face of the franchise. Because if Cam Newton's not going to be with the Carolina Panthers, they better find their quarterback and find it soon. The season's just around the corner. So fascinating next few weeks and next few months. And I'm not sure they're necessarily going to have their answer. I honestly feel Rule, Tepper, Hurney, they don't know.
Right, so how are we supposed to know?
How are we
They
supposed to
don't even know. And yet, it's still Cam Newton. I still think he is maybe the most athletically seductive figure we have on the planet. Like, I still see video of him, and I do. I said, there's Cam. The problem with the video is, though, it's like seeing Cam soft-tossing it on the field is like seeing Shaq, like, just do some baby jumpers. Like, is that really him? I need to see Shaq backing down Mutombo and pulling down the rack till I get excited. I don't just need Cam to play. I don't just need Cam to throw. I need Cam to be Cam, to be juking safeties, to be lowering the shoulder on linebackers. That's the Cam that I want. So a video is great. I want him to be healthy. He's so tough to quit. He's like a beautiful woman or a beautiful man, whatever it is. It's so unbelievably seductive because you know the talent and you know the high end. To move on to some kid in the draft when we got Cam Newton there is really hard, really hard.
I'll tell you this. I know, Nate, you said just watching the practice video doesn't really rile you up. But I will say this. When the Panthers went to Levi Stadium to play the 49ers last season, Cam was out real early out on the field just throwing a few balls, just warming up the shoulder. And everyone that was in that stadium at that point was fixated on what he was doing. He could have just been standing there breathing.
Right. MJ, who started the game? Kyle Allen started it. So it's like, it's great.
But my point is, if Cam is out there, people are watching, even if he's not doing anything. So to your point, I think he just has that panache, that spark, that X factor. So if, and it's a big if at this point, if he's healthy, he's hard to quit.
It's really hard to quit. What about the minutia of hiring a new coach, though, when the face of the franchise is dunno? Like, how did they even go about that?
They went all in on Tepper, and they gave him a huge contract, and they didn't let him leave his house. Remember, he was going to possibly interview with the Giants the next morning, and David Tepper said, you're not leaving this room. What's fascinating to me is there even a trade market for Cam Newton? Because no one knows his health. So if the Panthers wanted to come out here and say, he looks good, like they could at least drum up interest, they're not even doing that. So Rule's being honest when he talks to the media and says, I'd like to see the medicals. Of course I want Cam Newton to be the quarterback. And Ian Rappaport's report at the Combine was that their intention is for Cam Newton to be the guy week 1, but he won't be if he can't play quarterback.
Yeah, to MJ's point and what Kyle is saying, his talent is so seductive. And I know that footage is old, and we fall in love with it every time we see Cam doing what he did in that MVP season. And I know people don't really like me talking NBA, but the closest thing that I can relate to this is Derrick Rose. He first came in the league. He was so good, so athletic. And it's like we haven't seen a point guard jump this high and be this athletic and score the way he wanted to.
MVP?
Really at will. MVP. And then he got injured. And he got injured again and again and again. And everybody's like, you know what? Forget about Derrick Rose for a while. And Derrick Rose, he reinvented himself. And over the last couple of years, he's been balling. Even so, like, the crowds are still chanting MVP. So I feel like what Phil Simms said to me a long time ago relates to this moment. Never judge a player while he's banged up. And if Cam is healthy, I guarantee he will reclaim his spot as one of the best quarterbacks in the game.
You guarantee that?
I guarantee if he's healthy. I know it's a big if. We're all saying
The sad part about Cam is he gets the clean bill of health. And it's like, well, when's the next one coming? And I hate that. And it's really morbid. But, like, I've seen clean bills of health from before, and then it's the foot and the shoulder. You talk to him yourself. He doesn't even know which is which. It's tragic. I hate it, but that's where we're at.
He said 2019 kicked my ass. He said, but 2020, I'm coming for you.
Good.
And I believe that. So we'll see.
I hope he
big deal. You know what? I'm not going to say think. I know this is a big deal because I say it all the time. What happens in sports parallels society. So, listen, whether you're a student, you work in a cubicle downtown, whatever your profession is, you should take this approach. There's always going to be people coming in that are there to take your job. Now, more specifically in football, if they draft an individual and you give him everything that you can to help him beat you, and yet and still you still beat him, that is the biggest confidence booster you can have. And I always say this, confidence in yourself will always be stronger than fear in losing your position. I respect this, and most people in life, not just sports, should approach it this way.
You can read the Jeff Pearlman book. You can go through all the 30 for 30s. You can go through the football life. Rodgers and Favre did not have a great relationship when they played together, but in recent years, and a lot of that is due to some really strong efforts from people outside of the two of them, they have become closer, and they've become able to empathize for each other. I think Maura Mant, who's no longer with us and had a tragic passing a couple weeks ago, brought them together at the ESPYs in 2013 and said, hey, guys. And since then, Rodgers kind of has put himself in Brett Favre's shoes and said, hey, wait a second, I was drafted in the first round after he had just taken a team to the playoffs and was an NFC championship game. Like, and now Rodgers kind of empathizes with Favre, and that has really brought the two of those men close enough where they not only appear at award shows, but are friendly and have many a times where the two of them have gotten together.
They golf together.
They play golf. So to me, this is such a big deal because Rodgers knows the deal. Because when he was 36, or when Favre was 36, Rodgers came in as a first-round pick. I love the fact that Rodgers is self-aware, and I think it took 2 decades to get to this point. But I believe it's a big deal because if they do draft somebody, it's not this awkward, awful situation that Rodgers walked into.
Peter, that was really, really well said. I just think no big deal because this is just Rodgers being Rodgers. Rodgers just does this thing where hashtag not to brag, but like I'm Aaron Rodgers and I'm very, very aware of that. No one that they can bring in is going to be as good as me for a long time. It reminds me of when the whole chugging thing was going on. Everyone was making fun of Aaron Rodgers for chugging, and Stafford did it better. And he's like, well, they finally did something they can do better than me. Congratulations to them. It's very, very Aaron Rodgers to say. Just as a side note, though, I would hate the draft pick. I really don't want the Packers to draft a quarterback. You got out-muscled by the Niners badly. You need some D tackles. You need some muscle. Do not draft a quarterback, please.
I like it. I love that you brought up the Favre situation because I think this is a full circle moment.
Circle of life.
Especially for Aaron Rodgers. And I do think it's a big deal, but not because of it happening, but just what he said. I think so many times you hear hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. Rodgers has both. He knows he's talented, and he goes out there and he puts it up, regardless that he's 36 years old. But this is what happens next. They're going to bring in another guy. He's going to learn under him. He's going to give him some tough love, I think, because
no doubt.
need to in that situation. And I think in the long run, the Packers will be better for it.
No doubt.
But I love his approach. I love what he says, that swag and that. Listen, I ain't worried. I'm not worried.
It's a little different than Roethlisberger 2 years ago when they drafted Mason Rudolph.
I think we need defense.
What do you mean?
I wouldn't have drafted him in the 3rd round.
But what did that do for
Big
Mason
fan.
Rudolph's confidence? I don't know. To me, that actually hampered Mason Rudolph's growth and development. He had to deal with that.
No doubt.
All right, let's squeeze one more in here.